Dear friends, welcome to this week's edition of the Inspired Parsha. This week we have the incredible privilege to read through Parshas Vayigash. And like every Parsha in the Torah, there's so many beautiful, rich Torah ideas. But I just want to focus on one pasuk, one verse. In this week's Parsha is probably one of the most dramatic episodes in the entire Torah. Yosef reveals himself to his brothers. After all these years of being away from them, after all the hurt and all the pain that he experienced because of them, he's finally reunited with them. And he says those famous words, Ani Yosef, I am Yosef, Ha'od Avichai, is my father still alive? This is such a powerful episode in the Torah, and we all know that the brothers were speechless. They were finally confronted with what the awfulness, the betrayal of what they had done, and then the shock of being reunited with Yosef, who they assumed was just sold into slavery and amounted to a nothing, and here he was, the second in charge of all of Egypt. But there's one famous question that some people deal with, which is some of the commentators deal with, which is, did Yaakov ever find out what happened, what the true story of what happened, that his own children sold their own brother into slavery? And some commentators believe that Yaakov did find out about it. Again, Yaakov had something called Ruach HaKodesh, he had divine spirit, so Jacob knew what his sons had done, what his own children had done. But I want to just take a different approach. The Toldos Yaakov Yosef, who was one of the great Hasidic Rebbes, he was a disciple of the Baal Shem Tov himself. He actually was the one who recorded or wrote down a lot of the Baal Shem Tov's Torah ideas. And he almost became the successor to the Baal Shem Tov before the Maggid of Mezrich became the official successor of the Baal Shem Tov. So the Toldos Yaakov Yosef says something incredible. He says that, first of all, he says, God forbid that Hashem, God allowed Yaakov to find out what really happened to Yosef. Meaning, God shielded Yaakov from learning the truth. God shielded him from learning of the incredible betrayal that his own children did to their own brother. He shielded him. Yaakov had been through enough. He had been through so much pain. He didn't need that extra agony of knowing what his own sons, what his own children did. But the Toldos Yaakov says one other thing, and I think this point is absolutely crucial. He says, not only did God shield him, protect him from not learning the whole truth, but he says that Yaakov never even asked to find out the whole truth. He never even asked. He says, because the Torah doesn't record Yaakov ever asking his children what really happened, he says we learn that Yaakov never even asked his children really what happened. He never wanted to find out. He never found out the full story. He took the story that his children told him at face value, that Yosef was injured somehow by a wild animal, and that's it. And he never pushed it any further. What do we see from this? There's an incredible lesson that we see from this. Sometimes the truth is too painful to hear, and that's okay. Because sometimes it's okay to shield yourself from learning the total truth when the real truth is too painful to hear. We live in a world where we're so often confronted by so many disturbing images, so many disturbing stories, news stories. And sometimes studying the entire truth can be too painful to really hear and see, especially right now what's coming out of Israel. We have a choice to be able to say, is seeing this news story or is seeing this image, is this going to be too painful for me to see? Is this going to hurt my neshama, my soul, so to speak? Our minds are very closely linked to our neshama. When something is painful for us to see, when our mind gets sad or really disturbed by something, that has an effect on our neshama, on our soul. Rabbi Nachman of Breslov was famous for saying, mitzvah gedola lios b'simcha tamid. It's a mitzvah to always try to be in a state of joy. Why is it so important to try to be in a state of joy? Because It's so much easier to get closer to God when you're in a state of joy. You want to get closer to Him. It's just more difficult and painful when you're in a state of sorrow and pain. So sometimes it's okay to not see the truth completely. To sometimes say to yourself, I don't need to see this. I don't need to read this article. Of course, everyone should be informed on general current events, what's going on in the world. But to see every single graphic detail, to learn every single graphic detail, we don't need to do that. We can and should protect our souls sometimes from seeing the entire truth, and that is okay. That's the message that we learn from Yaakov Avinu, from Jacob, our forefather. So I want to give everyone a bracha, a blessing. I always try to end off with a blessing. Preserve your neshama, preserve your soul, protect your soul. We don't always need to know every single bad thing that happens out there. And through this, we will come to be in a greater state of joy, and we will want to develop a stronger connection to God. I want to wish everyone a wonderful Shabbos. May we never know of such sadness in general, but when we do, let us all protect our souls. Let us all protect our neshamas so we can stay a little bit in a state of joy. Again, wishing everyone here a wonderful Shabbos, and thank you so much for listening.